Welcome back to Cal Park Bros. Jason and I are fresh off kind of dissecting these new recommendations from the CDC regarding uh, vaccinated and whether or not they should be masked in certain spaces. I anticipate a complete uh, just glossing over whatever the hell the CDC actually said they recommended versus what people wanted to hear. If you're already committed to kind of denigrating a certain viewpoint or an organization, then it really doesn't matter how well they're going to message it. Sadly. In this segment, we're going to be talking about our Olympic observations part two. Olympic observations part one was really about the kicking off of the Olympics in Tokyo. This week, we're just going to be kind of recapping some of the things that have happened since. And in Tokyo, a lot of excitement in terms of gymnastics, and also some of our favorite Olympians of all time. So, you know what's really, really cool about the Tokyo Olympics so far?
What's that?
I did not anticipate that I was going to enjoy a commentary from Michael Phelps as much as I thought I was. Good for him though. He that plays into his marketability. I would say Michael Phelps is definitely one of my favorite Olympians. He's got a great story. Being from Baltimore, um, the fact that it was just him and his mom, growing up, and having the proper training and just the right combination of training and desire and drive and being at the right place at the right time. It made the '08 games. I think I was actually back home in Calumet Park watching that, or close to Shepherd High School with some high school friends, checking out the Olympic events. And all we could really talk about was what Michael Phelps was doing that year in '08. So, I mean, he just came through and crushed the buildings, and he was, a force of nature. And he proceeded to do the same thing in London, and that's like, if you can hit it big in like two Olympics, I think that's really when you can hit that critical mass and make some serious coin and really be looked at as an iconic athlete. So that's definitely one of my favorite Olympians is Michael Phelps. What about you, Jason?
So yeah, Michael Phelps definitely when it comes to the greatest Olympians of all time. I feel like not that I'm a fan of him or anything, but I definitely feel like he has to be number one. I mean, I believe he's pretty much the all-time leader in medals or gold medals at the Olympics in total. He definitely holds the single games gold medal record with 8. Which thinking about that is crazy. Somebody win 8 gold medals in one Olympics. Just thinking about the mantle or the trophy case. This is my trophy case just from this one Olympics, but here's everything else. You know, so um, so definitely, at least for what he did in the pool, definitely respect to that. For my when it comes to favorite Olympians of all time, I really have a list of 2, and when you hear them, definitely my favorites for 2 different reasons. But the first one I have to, throw out there is Dominique Dawes. For those of you who don't know, she was a gymnast for the U.S., of course. She participated in 3 Olympic Games. I actually forgotten she was at the 2000 Olympics. I forgot about that. But she was part of the 92, 96, and 2000 Olympics. She won a total of 4 medals, excuse me. Did win gold as well. Um, one thing that really stood out, well, one of the things that really stood out is at the time when it comes to myself and following the Olympics, she was really the first black female gymnast I'd really kind of caught my attention when it comes to, oh, here's one of us in a sea of people that aren't us, if you know what I mean, which isn't not knocking the others that aren't us, but still, it's like she's the one that stood out. Um,
One of us. One of us.
yeah,
One of us.
yeah, I'm sure you all are chanting that right now. One of us hashtag that.
Yeah.
But now, granted, she wasn't the first black female gymnast. There was someone going back to 1980 for that regard. Um, but even still, up to her, she was really only the second, I believe. So that just goes to show that when it comes to black females in the Olympics in gymnastics, I mean, obviously we know Simone Biles and Gabby Douglas now, but before that, you know, it wasn't very many of us, hashtag again, representing that sport. Um, Now, I do have to mention, as we talked about the other day, that the other thing that stood out to me, why she's one of my favorites, is simply because she is so fine, boy. I tell you right now. Again, I remember her in '92, and and she's about 4 years older than us, same age as my brother. So at that time, I'm 11 years old. Here's this 15-year-old girl looking all fine in her leotard, doing all sorts of flips and everything on the mat and on the bars and stuff like that, looking all good. So definitely, she caught my eye, man. She definitely caught my eye. As that young 11-year-old first coming in the love and crushes and stuff like that, she was right on time when it comes to that.
My God.
But again, that was '92. Come to '96, when she was 19 and I'm 15. She's a woman at that point. So definitely, she was looking good back in those days, even in 2000, even now, she still looks fantastic. Um, but yeah, she was definitely, uh, if I'd say one of my first athlete crushes, ever. Give it up to Dominique Dawes. But my other favorite Olympian is Jesse Owens. I could stop there and people would understand why, but for those of you who never heard of them, Jesse Owens was a track athlete for the U.S. He only competed in one Olympic Games back in 1936. Jesse is an African American, and the 36 games were held in Berlin, Germany. Any of you history buffs out there know what was going on in Berlin, Germany, or why Germany was relevant back in 1936? To say nothing else, Hitler was actually at those games, present. He was hoping that would be the Olympics, to where the German bloodline would show dominance and take all the medals and whatnot in track and other events as well. Well, Jesse made sure that, at least in the events he was in, that didn't happen. So Jesse won four gold medals. Four. Now, that number may not sound like a lot when it comes to us just talking about Michael Phelps having 8 in the one games, but just for comparison, in the history of the modern day Olympics, which goes back to 1896, there have only been 6 track and field athletes to win at least 4 gold medals in one Olympic Games. Only 6. Jesse's one of them. And for another point of reference, there's only been one other male track athlete from the U.S. to have done that feat since him in 1936. And that was Carl Owens in 1984. And no one's done it since then. So rarefied air when it comes to U.S. men's track athletes winning that many golds in one Olympics. But going back to Jesse, again, just the height of the climate of Germany, for him to put on that show and win 4 gold medals with Hitler sitting there watching as an African American male, I'm sure that was probably pretty cool. And I'm sure Jesse was aware of all that stuff, because there are people, according to a lot of the history websites I've seen, including History Channel website, a lot of people were encouraging Jesse not to go. Not for fear for his life or anything, but they didn't want him to go because they didn't want him to, in a way, glorify the Olympic Games in that particular country, because of what obviously Germany was that back then. But he went anyway, and guess what? Sure glad he did. Again, 4 gold medals, bro. And I think that's important, and that's why, just like in the same vein of Jackie Robinson is my favorite athlete of all time, just because of what he went through. For me, someone who grew up playing baseball, that was an important individual. I think Jesse Owens, in the height of what he did, even if it was just for a matter of 2 weeks or a week, doesn't matter. I think that was one of the coolest things ever. And the fact that Hitler was one, pretty much took pictures of a lot of the athletes who were there that won gold medals. The fact that he refused to take a picture with Jesse Owens, I think, was the biggest slap in the face from Jesse to Hitler, the fact that I won these gold medals when you're thinking your boys are going to come up here and run stuff. Nah, nah. I'll take that medal. I'll take those 3 of those right there. Um, so yeah, for me, my favorite Olympic athletes of all time, Dominic Dawes, Jesse Owens, 2 different reasons, but still, they hold a special place and a special importance. So
Good stuff. Jason. Yeah, man. Jason, that's great. Thank you for that context about Jesse Owens. That's a wonderful story. That's a wonderful American story, by the way, because you can't talk about America without talking about Jesse Owens. I think for me, another one of my favorite Olympians is Carl Lewis. The longevity that the man had. I mean, the dude, he's 60 years old now. His last Olympics was in 96 in Atlanta. Carl Lewis is such a great American hero and Olympian. We are willing to look past the fact that he butchered the national anthem.
are we though?
I am. I forgive him. um, but he was like he was one of those like transcendent track and field stars where he was just everywhere, man. So I think the combination of his success in multiple events just, put him into the stratosphere. Um, you can't talk Olympians without talking Flojo. I mean, the flamboyant, confident uh, track star who did it with style and grace. But I mean, she was amazing. I also know you. I think you were conflicted about do we list NBA players as like transcendent Olympian athletes? I respectfully disagree with you. You got to put Jordan on this list because we don't even have the Olympic basketball that we have today without Jordan signing up for that team in Barcelona. Got to do it. Got to do it. He's on the list. Um, there have been some truly transcendent Olympians, and I just don't know how that list looks without Michael Jeffrey Jordan on it. Why are you so opposed to putting NBA players on your like best Olympians? Not that there was an issue with your three, because your three are obviously amazing. It just seemed like you were determined not to put any NBA players from the Dream Team on it.
I mean, I could easily pick. I mean, my favorite NBA player of all time was an Olympian, so I easily could have said him. But I just can't put them in the same vein as actual Olympians. I mean, again,
What makes
these
actual
Olympic.
Olympians though? That's what I'm trying to get to the heart at.
I mean, obviously they were in the Olympic Games and participated in the games. So from that aspect, they're Olympians. But I can't compare them to everyone else because these other actual Olympians, be it Michael Phelps, Dominique Dawes, whoever else you want to name, they're, for lack of a better term, their primary focus was winning these gold medals every 4 years. People in the Olympics, as far as the NBA players in particular, they ain't focused on that. They're focused on winning that NBA championship, as they should. That's their paying job. And we see that from the fact not so much when Jordan was doing this stuff, but we see that now when a lot of these top notch NBA players don't want to go over there and play in the games because they don't feel like it's that important, which is what it is. I'm not trying to get hurt for my season. I just played this long season. I'm not trying to go over here and play this thing. The fact that Devin Booker's over there after playing in the finals, a week prior, kudos to him for doing that. But I just can't put them in the same vein as these other Olympians because it's not their primary focus. Again, as it shouldn't be, but it still isn't. So that's why I'm not putting them in my favorite Olympians of all time because they're not really Olympians. They're NBA players.
That's fair. I may not agree with that, but I respect that.
I'm waiting for the but.
There is no but.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think that pretty much covers like all the Olympians of that we can really put on a pedestal. What have been some Olympic updates from this second week that have surprised you? with the Tokyo Games, Jason?
Well, I have to tell you, man, it's the Olympic medal count standings. I know we talked about this last week, and we had some hopes for the United States to be number one in gold medals. Unfortunately, they are not. They were last week in a race with Japan and China for most gold. I think at the time, actually, Japan actually had like seven, like they were had the most goals. They had maybe like 14 or something like that, maybe 17 somewhere in there. And China and us were like maybe one or two behind them. Well, just for reference point, Japan only has 19 gold medals now, so they didn't win a whole lot. But China has 32 gold medals, bro. 32. I was looking at the results after the day we talked about this. They had a killer 3 or 4 days when it comes to golds and total medals as well. I mean, we're still number one in total medals overall right now with 73. China has 69. But China's been killing it, man. That's the first thing I got to bring up. And the others, I think, are kind of, I hate to say disappointments when it comes to certain teams and athletes we were hoping would win gold but didn't. Some of those people still medal, so you can't knock somebody just because they don't win gold. You can't knock them for winning silver or bronze because you train for 4 years. If you're good enough to win second place or third place out of everybody competing and training for 4 years, I think, or in this case 5, I think that still deserves a pat on the back. But when it comes to the women's soccer team, I think we all pretty much counted for them to win the gold, or at least expected them to win the gold. And now that they're not even in the gold medal game, that's kind of like a little bit of a hit to our overall gold medal count. Hopefully, they win the bronze at least. We can add to that column. Also, Simone Biles. Now, before going to this, let me go ahead and say that I have no issue with her stepping back a little bit to address her mental health. I think anybody who listens to this show knows and expects me to say something like that because it's the truth. But we, of course, are expecting her to win some gold medals for us as well. Now, of course, she backed out of a couple of events, and she did come back and jump in the balance beam competition. But she won bronze. I don't want to say unfortunately, but she won bronze, so she medaled. But when it comes to the competition against China, somebody from China won that gold medal in that event. Um, so again, also the women's softball team, again, like I mentioned before, lost in the gold medal games at Japan. So that's another gold medal we lost out on. Other individual competitors in like skateboarding, track, again, they haven't won gold. So that seems to be what's standing out to me, in my opinion, there. But yeah, but again, I do like I have to say again that if people are medaling in the Olympics, that's not a bad thing. So, but
Do you,
that's what stands out to me so far as missed opportunities. Just when it comes to winning more gold medals to quote unquote win the Olympics, if there is a winner. But overall, um, I think the eye is still out on some of the other events that we still hope, even if we don't get the most gold medals, we still want the men's basketball team to win gold. We want the women's basketball team to win gold. The baseball team could still take home gold. Also, some other track events as well. So there's still other teams that we're hoping can win gold. It's just amazing to see what China's done in this last week since we last talked. But again, kudos to them, man. They're killing it. So
yeah. Jason, do you think that when people say that Simone Biles quit on her team, do you agree with that?
no. I mean, if you want to use the word literally, then sure. But no, it's not like she walked out for any other BS reasons. I mean, it's her mental health. And I haven't looked into this, but I'm pretty sure if I looked up other articles, I'm sure they would show plenty of her teammates backing her and supporting her when it comes to her doing this. Other athletes outside of the Olympics are supporting her as well because they get it. So did she quit on her team? No. And I know there's morons out there that had that opinion. I've seen them on social media that she couldn't handle the pressure, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, come on.
It feels so odd to me that we're literally going to call number one, fucking patriot representing her country, a sexual assault survivor, and and a gold medal already fucking certified Olympian, that we're going to call them a quitter, that we're going to call them a loser. Something seems very off with that. Jason, there were a lot of cubicle gangsters, I like to call them. And I think they were out of pocket and going at Simone Biles like that. I mean, if a gymnast tries to do some sort of move, they tried to do the move literally, they land right in quotations, but I'm like, yeah. That's not what I meant to do. And this is a sport where you can literally land on your fucking neck and someone's going to try and call you a loser or try and call you a quitter. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with that. I think her coming back after, first off, an Olympian saying, hey, I don't want to hurt my team. I tried to go out there and compete. It's abundantly clear I don't have it. Put the other person in because they're going to put us in a better position to win. That's the most Olympian gold medalist shit you can do, is not make it about you at that moment. But people tried to shit on her for that. Fuck that. We get this weird thing in this country where we have certified, legitimate winners who have done it here and abroad. And we talk down on them. We throw dirt on their name like they haven't produced. That is whack.
Just like crack, it's whack.
Yeah. There's going to be like a retrospective about these games, and that's totally going to be one of those things that we talk about in 5, 10, 15 years, Jay. I tell you. Yeah. That's for me, that really made the Olympics. The fact that this men's basketball team is trying to figure it out. We were ready to throw dirt on their name too, but they looked horrible last week.
No, they absolutely did, and the fact that they the fact that they like I said, come back, won their next two games that count, and then now they just won their first game in pool play, or rather in the quarterfinals against Spain. I was surprised by that. I thought Spain for sure would beat them. So I'm glad they didn't. They're moving on to the semifinals. Hopefully they keep winning. At least get the gold medal game. At least get there. So you're not like a total disappointment. But yeah, we were really put dirt on them. Like they're done. They're horrible. Blah blah blah. But maybe just playing together for a couple of games was all they needed to kind of say, hey, we're NBA players. We should probably start playing like it. I can't imagine that conversation didn't happen somewhere. Maybe not in a desperation type of tone, but more like in a reality type of tone. Like, hey, wait a minute. I'm this person. I'm Kevin Durant. I'm Jason Tatum. I'm Dame Lillard. And again, even though it wasn't something that was spoken out loud, up here, somebody had to have said it. Losing to no offense to France, they have some players there, but they probably shouldn't have been losing to France. Okay.
No offense to France, but we're going to proceed to offend the fuck out of France.
Hey, calling like I see it. Hey, but you know what though? To be honest, I'll say this too when it comes to track. I was telling people at work, hey, this is the medal count so far, but don't worry, track's coming up next week. We're gonna kill it in track because we're US, we're the fastest in general, and that hasn't happened. We won medals, but not so much gold. So, sometimes you just never know with the Olympics, man, because person A versus person B, we both trained for 4 years. It's a one-time thing. One small thing might make me a winner So one small thing might make me second place. You just never know. Um, but yeah, going back to Simone Biles real quick. I'm glad you brought that up. How quickly forget what she did in the last Olympics. She won 5 medals in the last Olympics. 5. So, like you said, and 4 of those were gold. So it's not like she's afraid of competition. She's done it, and that's just the stuff she's done at the Olympics. Should I keep going with what she's done at the World Championships?
Go for it.
She look, the list of what she's done at the World Championship events is like 3 times as long as what she's won at the Olympics. So, granted, those happen every year, but yeah, she's pretty much won. She's won gold medals in 13, 14, 15, 16, or not 16, but 18, 19, 13. Yeah, look at this. All different events, but all in total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 golds in total at World Championship events. But I'll go and throw in the 3 silver and 3 bronze as well. So, you know what? I think people need to calm down, shut up, and stop talking all that quitter nonsense. Take another sip of your beer, whether it's American beer in the US, Heineken over there in Germany, wherever you're from. Calm down, take a sip of it, be a bottle, cup, or glass. Shut up.
On that note, I believe that concludes our Olympic observations, part 2. We look forward to the successful conclusion of the Tokyo Olympics, and we also hope to hear from some of our fans. What have been some of your favorite moments from these Tokyo Games so far? Coming up next, we're going to be talking about live events and COVID, especially in relation to this recent CDC update. Coming up next on Cal Park Bros.